Welcome back to the Grace, Grit and Everything in Between podcast with me, Ellie. Today's episode is one that I've really taken my time with because it's not a light subject and it's not a light topic. And this is something many women experience but don't always have the words for. So today we're going to talk about gaslighting, flying monkeys, and the emotional experience of walking on eggshells. More importantly, how this impacts your mind, your confidence, and your sense of reality. Because when you're in it, you don't always see it clearly. You just feel confused, overwhelmed, unsure, and often you believe everything's your fault. And I want to help you understand something today, that if you feel like you are losing your voice, losing your mind, there is always a reason. So last week we touched on walking on eggshells. So let's just do a little bit of a recap and start here, because this is often the first sign. Walking on eggshells, the feeling of thinking before you speak, replaying conversations in your head, adjusting your tone, avoiding certain topics, and try not to trigger someone. And what that really is fear. It's not always obvious fear, but subtle fear of conflict, rejection, anger, withdrawal, emotional punishment, physical punishment. And when this becomes your normal, you start to disconnect from yourself and you stop asking, what do I think? And you start living, how will things stay calm? What do I have to do? What do I have to not do to keep things calm? And that's often where gaslighting begins to take hold. So if you've not heard the term gaslighting, and it was a very new reference for me, this is basically what it is. It's a form of emotional and psychological manipulation. It's when someone causes you to doubt your memory, question your perception, mistrust your feelings, and ultimately disconnect from your own reality. It doesn't always look dramatic. It can sound like, that didn't happen. You're overreacting. You're too sensitive. You're imagining things. You always make things bigger than they are. I didn't say that. That never happened. Yeah, and over time, these small statements start to build and something shifts inside you. And you start beginning to think, maybe I am overreacting. Maybe I am too much. Maybe it is my fault. Maybe that didn't happen. And this is where it becomes dangerous, because your internal compass starts to weaken. Now, when I shared my story before, I said how at one point when I was ill on a lot of medication due to the spinal damage, how my ex-husband manipulated that, and he moved back into my home and told me he hadn't, that his stuff wasn't where it was, and my whole world, without really knowing at the time, was being majorly manipulated. Didn't help that I was on a lot of medication, because just keep giving me that medication, and I haven't got a clue what's right or what's left. And this is what I mean. I didn't actually know what that was until I was well out of it, which is one of the reasons why I show up and do these podcasts. So why do these people do it? This part's the important piece. Not all people gaslight are fully aware they are doing it. Some have learned these behaviours from parents, peers. Some are avoiding responsibility. Some cannot tolerate being wrong. Some need control to feel safe. So instead of reflecting, they redirect because they're not capable of reflecting. So instead of taking accountability, because they can't, they shift the narrative. And because they can make you doubt yourself, they don't have to face themselves. Understanding why someone does it does not make it acceptable at all. That is the key. Understanding why they do it does not make it acceptable. It is still not acceptable. It will never be acceptable. How does it make you feel? So gaslighting affects you deeply, emotionally and mentally. It's emotional and mental abuse. You start to feel confused all the time, anxious, unsure of your decisions, disconnected from your instincts, and like you need reassurance constantly. And you begin to second guess everything. You apologise more, you stay quiet, you withdraw. You lose yourself. You lose trust in yourself. And that's the real damage. Not just the words, but those words that make you believe about yourself. You know, the words that people are saying to you that you then start believing about yourself. So I want you to pause here for a moment and just ask yourself, have I ever felt like I couldn't trust my own thoughts? Have I ever walked away from a conversation feeling more confused than when I entered it? Have I ever felt like I had to prove my own reality? Just notice, no judgment. Just think back. So this then leads on to flying monkeys. And if you've not heard the term flying monkeys, again, like you, this was a new thing that I had to learn. And many people don't realise this. Flying monkeys, this is when other people are brought into the dynamic. Sometimes knowingly, sometimes unknowingly. These people may support the other person's version of events, dismiss your feelings, tell you just to move on, minimise your experience, and defend behaviour they don't fully understand. They might say, that's just how they are. I'm sure they didn't mean it. You're making a big deal out of nothing. And what this does is reinforce the doubt. It makes you feel more isolated because now it's not just one person. It feels like multiple voices telling you you're in the wrong. And that's what I experienced from my ex-husband and his family. It was just constant. I was completely isolated. Literally, I didn't have a say. Whatever I said was wrong. And it is a very hard way to live. So if you are feeling like any of this is relating, then this is your opportunity to do something about it. So the impact of this dynamic, when gaslighting and flying monkeys exist together, it creates a powerful environment of control. You begin to feel alone, misunderstood, silenced, and unsure where to turn. And this is where many women stay stuck. Not because they're weak, but because their environment has slowly removed their certainty. And this is where you reclaim your voice. The shift, it begins with awareness. That's all it needed for me. Someone to actually tell me what was going on, what was happening to me, what these people were doing to me. So it's not confrontation, not force, it's just your awareness. And recognizing this doesn't feel right. I feel confused for a reason, and my voice matters. And slowly rebuilding trust in yourself. That might look like journaling your thoughts, noticing patterns, validating your own feelings, and setting small boundaries. You don't need to fix everything overnight. You just need to start listening to yourself again. And that's how I started. When I joined the brand that I collaborated with, that is when I started getting me back. That was the massive shift in the whole dynamic of what had happened and what was going on, is when I started getting me back and starting seeing me and noticing that what had happened for many, many years. So if this episode has resonated with you, if you've recognised yourself in these patterns, please know this is exactly the kind of work I support women through with my one-to-one coaching. We go deep into your past experiences, your current patterns, and your future direction, helping you rebuild self-trust, clarity, and confidence. So you can move forward feeling grounded and in control of your life again. If you take one thing from today, let it be this: you are not too sensitive, you are not overreacting, and you are not imagining things. If something feels off, there is always something worth paying attention to. Your voice matters. And the moment you begin to trust yourself again, everything starts to change. Until next week, I hope that's given some of you some clarity, and please feel free to reach out if you would like to know more about the coaching. I'll see you next week. Thanks for watching, and feel free to share.